In 1848, a British man secretly infiltrated the forbidden tea regions of China. His mission? To steal the secret of tea. If he had been caught, he would have faced execution. But that theft would go on to reshape the global economy and alter the balance of empires forever. And this entire story began with a single leaf, growing in the rugged mountains of East Asia. Yes, you heard that right. Those dried black leaves steeping in your teapot are actually the youngest and most tender shoots of a plant called Camellia sinensis, which grows naturally in the steep mountains of East Asia. Although it may look like an ordinary shrub, the chemical design inside this leaf contains a balance found in no other plant. When you examine the contents of this leaf, you encounter a balance that is rare in nature. Tea contains caffeine, which keeps the mind alert, and L-theanine, which prevents unnecessary physical tension, working together as a system. In coffee, caffeine enters the bloodstream rapidly and creates a short-lived energy spike. In tea, the effect is slower and more controlled. For this reason, tea provides long-lasting mental clarity rather than sudden stimulation. Yet, despite billions of cups being consumed every day, most people are unaware that this leaf was once a closely guarded state secret, and that its global spread was the result of a covert espionage operation. Tea represents one of nature's most complex and elegant interactions with the human mind. Many people think of it merely as a drink to stay awake. But what happens at the biochemical level is far more profound. The reason humans have pursued this leaf for thousands of years is not just its taste, but the unique sense of mental clarity it provides. At the center of this clarity lies the conflict and harmony between two molecules found together in an almost perfect ratio, something unmatched in any other plant: caffeine and L-theanine. When you drink coffee, caffeine rushes into your bloodstream, triggers adrenaline, accelerates your heart rate, and propels you into a burst of energy. But this surge comes at a cost. The familiar caffeine crash, trembling hands, and scattered focus that follow shortly afterward. Tea enters the picture here like an engineering marvel. The amount of caffeine in tea is not necessarily lower than coffee, but the amino acid L-theanine moderates caffeine's aggressive effects. L-theanine stimulates alpha brain waves, producing a state of deep calm, not drowsiness, but a heightened focus where external noise fades away. Science refers to this state as calm alertness. With a single sip of tea, caffeine provides vitality, while L-theanine gathers that energy and concentrates it like a laser beam on a single point. This is why tea has historically been the drink of philosophers, strategists, and meditating monks. What sustained them was not mere stimulation, but a biological balance that sharpened the mind with surgical precision. In essence, drinking tea temporarily recalibrates human biology. It suppresses the body's fight-or-flight response and brings attention and strategic thinking to the forefront. The most remarkable part is that such a complex effect has existed unchanged for thousands of years, hidden inside a single leaf growing in rugged mountain terrain. Human history often takes centuries to recognize the simplest truths, And tea is no exception. For generations, empires, merchants, and even botanists believed that black tea, green tea, and the rare white tea came from entirely different trees grown in distant regions. Marketed as exotic products from mysterious eastern gardens, these leaves appeared to belong to different worlds. In reality, this was one of the longest-lasting botanical illusions in history. The truth is simple. The deep red-black tea in your cup, the fresh green tea of East Asia, and the silver-haired white tea all come from the same mother plant, Camellia sinensis. The difference lies not in the soil, but in what humans do to the leaf after it is picked. This transformation is governed by a single process: oxidation. Imagine biting into an apple and leaving it on the table. As it contacts air, its surface darkens. The fate of the tea leaf is exactly the same. If a master roasts or steams the leaf immediately after picking, the enzymes inside are deactivated, and the green color is preserved forever. This is green tea. But if the leaf is left to rest, gently bruised and allowed to interact with oxygen for hours, it slowly darkens, its chemistry changes, and it develops the rich, robust aroma we recognize as black tea. This is the leaf's maturation. And what about the most elusive of all, white tea? It represents the plant's childhood. Harvested in early spring before sunlight fully touches the leaves, these tender buds are covered with fine silver hairs. They undergo almost no processing, simply drying in the shade. This is nature in its purest, least altered form. This simple yet astonishing truth, that all tea comes from a single plant, was kept as one of East Asia's greatest state secrets for centuries. While Western traders searched for separate green tea trees and black tea trees, those who protected this knowledge controlled global trade. Few could believe that air and heat alone could so dramatically shape a leaf's character. But the secret of this green gold lay not only in biology, it also sat at the center of a theft that would shake the global economy. Tea was not merely a beverage. In the 19th century, it was the fuel powering the global economy. China guarded the secrets and seeds of this green gold like a fortress. Foreigners were forbidden from entering tea regions, and those who leaked the knowledge often paid with their lives. Determined to break this dependence, the British Empire launched one of the most dangerous operations in history to cultivate tea in its own colony, India. Enter Robert Fortune. He was a botanist, but history would remember him as one of the most effective industrial spies ever known. In 1848, Fortune shaved his head, wore a long queue, dressed in local clothing, and infiltrated China's restricted interior disguised as a native. For months, he observed tea gardens, studied production techniques, and most importantly, confirmed that black and green tea came from the same plant, shattering a long-held Western myth. Had he been caught, there would have been no return from this journey. But knowledge was not the hardest thing to steal. The plants were. Fortune smuggled over 20,000 tea saplings and thousands of seeds from China's finest regions, using newly invented glass terrariums known as Wardian cases. He also secretly transported Chinese tea masters who knew how to process the leaves. It was the relocation of an entire industry from one civilization to another. The consequences were irreversible. China's 1,000-year monopoly collapsed almost overnight, and India's highlands transformed into vast tea plantations. This theft lowered prices and turned tea from an aristocratic luxury into a global staple. The ordinary tea bag in your kitchen today is a direct legacy of that perilous journey hidden beneath a spy's disguise 180 years ago. But the story of this green leaf did not end with espionage. By changing the taste and color of water itself, tea ignited some of the bloodiest and most decisive conflicts in world history. Let us now see how a simple drink fueled revolutions and brought empires to their knees. Tea's history is not solely one of elegance and ceremony. It is also written in blood, rebellion, and revolution. By the 18th century, the British Empire had become so dependent on tea that its trade was one of the state's primary sources of income. This dependence, however, triggered some of the greatest geopolitical crises of the era. Tea was about to redraw borders. The first eruption came in 1773 at Boston Harbor. In protest of heavy British tea taxes, a group of colonists disguised themselves as natives and dumped massive shipments of tea into the sea. Known as the Boston Tea Party, this was not merely an act of protest. It was the birth pang of what would become the United States of America. A dispute over a beverage led to the fragmentation of an empire and the rise of a new world order. Yet the darker tragedy unfolded on the other side of the world. Britain was drained by silver payments for Chinese tea and turned to one of history's dirtiest strategies to balance trade: opium. By flooding China with opium produced in India, Britain poisoned millions in exchange for tea. When China resisted, the Opium Wars erupted. Thousands died, cities were destroyed, and an ancient civilization was forcibly subdued. In the 19th century, tea became one of the first and most powerful fuels of global capitalism. Ships chasing tea roots carried not just leaves, but new systems of colonialism, banking, and modern logistics. A teapot was no longer a symbol of comfort. It was strategic ammunition. Amid this global chaos and relentless conflict, there was one land that encountered tea relatively late, but would develop a bond so deep it would surpass all others. It is time to turn to Anatolia and Turkey's unique and delayed love affair with this green leaf. As tea reshaped the world, Anatolia remained under the reign of coffee. For the Ottoman Empire, coffee defined pleasure and social life. But after World War I, lost territories and the rising cost of imported coffee forced the region to seek an alternative. Turkey's relationship with tea was not born of preference, but of necessity. In the early years of the Republic, visionaries pursuing self-sufficiency turned to the misty mountains of the Black Sea. Led by idealists like Zihni Derin, tea saplings brought from Batumi took root in Rize's soil. What was planted was not merely a crop, but a new cultural code. Soon, the expensive and distant presence of coffee was replaced by a red infusion simmering in every home. Today, Turkey holds the world record for per capita tea consumption. For Turks, tea is not just a plant or a stimulant, it is an invitation, a reconciliation, and the warmest form of welcome. While coffee embraces solitude, tea belongs to crowds, conversation, and sharing. It reflects patience in hardship and joy in celebration. In the end, the modest liquid flowing from your teapot is the story of millions of years of biological design, disguised spies, oceans crossed by warships, and a nation reborn. Inside a single leaf lies an immense anatomy, offering not just caffeine and L-theanine, but human history itself. Perhaps what makes tea indispensable is its balance, the calm warrior within it. Amid life's chaos, a cup of tea neither accelerates nor halts you. It simply brings focus to where it is needed. And sometimes, the greatest transformations in history begin as quietly as a leaf changing the taste of water. In the next video, we will explore the story of another everyday object that quietly reshaped history. Until then, goodbye.